Alright guys, hola, bienvenidos, welcome and welcome back. I am on my way to Johnstone Supply right now. We actually have a Zoomlock demo to get to. Now, they actually reached out to me, Parker Sporlan, because of the YouTube channel. So, I mean, I know they like the content they said, but I really do appreciate everybody who subscribes and watches my videos. I mean, it's cool. We get a lot of praise for the channel, so I appreciate you guys. Now, they insisted on a demo for them to come down and show us their Zoomlock press fittings. I did a video on their push fittings, and I know one failed on me, but I corrected like a mistake that I did, or like a risk that I did the first time. So if you haven't seen those, go check those out. And now I want to look at their press fittings. I've been really interested in a press tool and fitting. Obviously, different fittings require different jaws. The jaws are the most expensive part. The tool is not too bad. You can get, I would prefer like a Milwaukee one, or because that's what I have. Milwaukee makes that tool, but the jaws are what expensive, and the jaws depend on what coupling you're using or what fitting you're using. So I'm gonna go check them out, see what they have to say, and maybe ask a few questions. I know a couple of you guys had told me your concerns, so I'm gonna ask them those too, see how the demo goes, see how their product works, and hopefully he lets me film. So we'll see. They reached out for my channel, right? So you would think they would let me film, so we'll see.
People been using this equipment?
Yes.
Yes.
They
I have quite a bit of people.
They told me here I'm the only one buying them.
Oh, yeah?
The push fittings.
Which
I like. Everybody asks, but you're the only one that buys them.
Alright, so we use Scotch-Brite pads because again we're trying to stay with an O-ring.
Right.
So if there's any scratches, any indents in the pipe, any burrs or anything like that, it's not going to seal properly. So Scotch-Brite pad just polishes the pipe.
You'll scratch it on the sample hole.
Right.
Whatever you would, sir.
He doesn't have to be all the way around, but just somewhere. So now what we're going to do is going to take that. Oh, what we're going to do is push that right in all the way to the black mark. So the reason why you mark the pipe is to make sure that you're past that O-ring, because it does give you that resistance. And then you have that center line right in there. Just put the fitting right in that center mark. It will auto center. Then just push the button and hold it until it's done. Hold it, and it's fine. That's it. And there's your leak-free, repeatable crimp.
Guaranteed.
15 years.
All right, so here's the test that we did. I'm gonna try and do something with this so we can do a pressure test on it. He let me keep it. And I'm looking at the brochure. We'll see what we decide to invest in. Alright guys, so just got finished talking to the Zoomlock people. So we got the pamphlet and everything. I'm looking through it, it's cool. And he let me take the sample, right? So this is the Zoomlock fitting. So basically, if you did not know, Zoomlock was originally a longer piece that was made out of soft copper. So he showed me the original design. That original design, since they separated, I'm not sure of the whole story, but somehow it got separated. So whoever made that fitting is now our RLS, which some of you guys might have heard about. And Zoomlock ended up going to a different design. Now theirs is more hard copper as far as Zoomlock. And he was telling me that they crimp directly on each O-ring. So I thought that was cool, you know, whatever. You don't, and since they do that, you don't need a depth gauge after you crimp. It's just as long as you crimp on the ring, it's supposed to be good. So I have this. I think I'm gonna put this together with some other stuff and braze the ends shut Obviously you cannot braze close to the O-ring, right? So I'm gonna put probably their push fittings on either end and then put in a closed, or not a closed, but like a service port end, so we can pressurize it and test it. And then afterwards I'll cut it open, because I did notice one thing though, is that their crimp, when you look at it, since I guess it's a hard to soft copper or something like that, you can actually see the line where it presses together. It's not seamless, so you do see the little line, you do see the seam, and then it's supposed to, you know, stop it, and then the O-ring is in the middle as a backup, I guess, or whatever gets through, because like I said, it's not super sealed, but I don't know, they've, you know, they're the ones that test it. They told me it goes up to like so many thousand PSI. The only oil it's not compatible with is mineral oil as far as the O-ring, so you can't use this with R22. Now when he told me that, I'm like, you know, that's fair. We don't use R22 personally. We do 407 if we need to. He said it's fine with that because of the oil, because you're going to change out the oil anyway. It's just not mineral oil compatible, so no R22. And there was another one he mentioned that was really random, some high refrigerant number, I don't remember, but all your major ones, 404, 410, 407, even like 134. I don't know if you guys still use that one. These are all compatible, and their sizes are from like a quarter all the way to inch and 3/8, I believe, because he was trying to sell me on the kit that they have. I told him I was going to shop around. So on their fittings, they do have, this one was a 15-year warranty, and then on their non-removable push fittings, it's a 10-year warranty. And then on the removable push fittings, it's only 5 years. And the only thing that's warranted is the fitting itself. So I guess you can return it and they'll exchange it or something. They do not warranty any refrigerant, labor, or anything like that. Anything else that was included on the job. And I mean, it is what it is. I can see why they wouldn't, because people might abuse it and try and get a whole bunch of money back on other things. So I'm gonna test this one, and like I said, I'll try and cut it open. Obviously, before I go out in the field and start using it, I want to make sure that it works. And I told them I was going to shop around, because I've heard of Zoomlock, RLS, and Mueller. Mueller is the one that does double O-rings, I guess, to like a fail-safe, and then RLS is soft copper to soft copper. And I've seen on those that you don't have a line that you can see. It basically blends the coupling with the line set seamlessly, where you don't even tell where one ends and one begins. So there's that. Now, to be honest with you guys, what I would be fairly interested in is getting these flare fittings. I thought that was kind of cool that they do that. Now, I think all the companies that do this are trying to do as many pieces as they can. So there's going to be ball valves, flare fittings. They even had flare fittings for the push lock, the push Zoomlock Push. So if you buy these, you can actually get one that has a push on one end and a flare that you screw on the other end. But I'm interested in flare fittings. That's probably what I'm going to stock up on a lot of, just because I can put this in on a repair that might not need torches. So let's say I'm doing some sort of work, and it could be on the roof. Let's say I'm replacing a Cormax or a Schrader, something that leaked out all the refrigerant, but I don't really need to solder or braze. Or we're doing a repair downstairs and we're a long ways from the condenser, doing a repair in the evaporator or something. Do I really want to take torches up on the roof? No. Should you replace the filter dryer every time it's empty? Yes, we can use flare dryers with those fittings, right? Go up there, all you need to do is take your press tool. You already know that it's a 3/8 line. And you press on the flares and twist on your dryer. Cut out the old one and you won't need torches whatsoever. And the, you know, when you cut out a dryer, you lose a little slack on your line set. Those little press flare fittings actually give you the slack back because they're a little bit longer. That's probably what I'm going to start doing, is using a lot of these flares, because I've seen Chris from HVAC videos use these pretty much exclusively, and then if he ever has to swap it out, it's easy. Alright guys, super excited to get out of work today because we got a package in. So I have to consolidate this into a pack out or something. But here we go. It's the jaws that are heavy. So the jaws are on the bottom. This is the press tool from RLS. So their brand's right there. They use the Makita batteries. And this is that brand, made by however you say that. And then this is basically their kit. So you got your depth gauge to prep. That's where you can mark it. They give you a rigid tubing cutter. So we got that there. This is the crimp gauge. So after you make your crimp or your press, you can check it afterwards, make sure it crimped it all the way down. A reamer. This is probably from Rigid as well. A marker, brush, and sandcloth. So cool that you get 2 batteries. You can keep one charging. They give you the Makita charger as well. If you guys are into Makita, this would be great for you guys. And then all my jaws are going to be here. They go from 1/4 inch to 1 1/8, I believe. We'll take a look at those. Now I see something over here. All right. Stickers, love that. Welcome to the RLS press gang. So, Howard Mechanical, you know, they got Flintstone, they got Jeff Jadam. This is from AHR that we attended as well. I did see them do their demo there at their booth.
Right there. Hold that, you know, the tracer. Let it go all the way through its whole cycle. It'll stop on its own. It's done. Let go. Unpinch it. And then what you've got is the set gauge. Go through. Double check. Make sure that you got it all the way around there, like so. And then what you want to do, if you look further close, there's a little RLS symbol right there and right there. You want to find the RLS symbol. What that's doing is stamping the pipe, letting you know that that whole jaw made that complete circular press and made that complete full press on that. Pretty cool. Yeah, it's actually real pretty.
And all these guys were there. If you guys are familiar with other HVAC YouTubers or Instagrammers, they were all there. They tell you how to prep, what to look for. You're gonna have the RLS stamp on it. Here's the manual for the tool. Install instructions. And the tool itself is very compact and light. So probably gonna keep using it if I like it. I am Milwaukee, so there is a Milwaukee press tool, but if that one works fine, then we'll keep that one. And all the jaws you need. Like I said, it's going to go from 1/4 inch to 1 1/8. So this kit comes with 8 jaws. I really only need like 6 of these. I do not use the 1 1/8 and not really the 5/16. So you have 3/8, 1/2 inch, 5/8, 3/4, and 7/8. Those I do use, 1/4 inch sometimes. But I don't know, I might not even use that one personally. So let me figure something out for this real quick. It is my RLS pack out. So let me get this down. So I had this idea all year round. I just never had a press tool to use it with. So this is going to be the ammo style can pack out. We got our batteries here. I'm going to try and use this for flare fitting. So we got a bunch in there, some couplings, elbows. So those are going to be the smaller sizes, everything you need that comes with your press kit. We got the marker, the little brush, comes with a rigid tubing cutter, abrasive cloth. It runs on Makita batteries, this RLS one, so there's 2 there. And take this out. Gonna work on inventory here, but this is where the bigger couplings are gonna go. The ones I use the most, obviously. Here's the RLS. So it's made by Hvacr, I don't know how to say that, but that's theirs. It is super compact, and then all the jaws are gonna lay underneath. The wind was really bad here, but all it was saying was that we're gonna braze this end shut, that we're gonna add the press fittings here and the Zoomlock push fitting, pressurize it, and then we're gonna check for leaks. Alright, so here's our contraption. We are essentially testing the RLS fitting, the Zoomlock Max fitting, the Zoomlock Push fitting, and then I do have service ports, but those are brazed shut on either end. We're going to put a digital gauge on this side. So we got 0 PSI there. And in order to test this, I think we're going to go with R410, just so that we can also throw a electronic leak detector through the joints. All right, so we're going to open over here. Bleed it. Let's see what our pressure gets to. So we got 30. So we got a cool 200. Okay, 239. All right, so I lost pressure just by removing my hose. I forgot to go get my thumb screw. That way we can disengage it and then take it off. So let's try this again. All right, so we got to back up to 238, and then this way we can disengage. You're not really going to lose much there. So 236, I'm going to cap this just to be safe, and then we'll see from 236. It's a Sunday. It's about 79 degrees outside. We'll let it sit. I don't know if we're going to have any more cold fronts. That could affect it, but if not, we're going to check it tomorrow. Hopefully it's the same temperature outside, and then we'll leak check basically everything down the line. That is a joint till the very end. So I'll let it stabilize for a few minutes and then we'll check it. Okay, it started dropping in real time. Let me go through with a leak detector really quick. It is getting fresh outside, but that's going down a little too quick. All right, so I try to sit it out here in the sun a little bit, but the sun's already going down. And that pressure corresponds with what the temperature is out here. It got really cloudy and really windy, so that's probably gonna drop a little bit. But nothing as far as bubbles on anything. So my main concern would only be if this goes up or goes down and then comes back up once it gets hot tomorrow. Because we're going to leave it overnight, and obviously it is going to go down in pressure, because if it gets in the 60s out here, this is going to drop a few more PSI, but then once it gets back up into the 70s and 80s tomorrow, it should be back above this right here. But nothing alarming so far. All right, so here we are the next day. Did some maintenance stuff today. Here we have the fitting still. So let's take a look at it. And as expected, it's closer to what it was when I started. Our temperature rose up. It got into the 80s today. Again, this is going to be the evening. Sun's going down. So it's going to start dropping again. It's getting fresh outside. No leaks that I can see. We'll test that out right now before I put bubbles on there. All right, so let's put this in turbo. All right, so I'm gonna check my gauge just in case. Nothing here. Nothing over here. The Sporlan Zoomlock Max. Nothing. RLS fitting. Absolutely nothing. Check our caps. Check my braze joints. Nothing on the push fitting. So, don't have anything leaking. So I already did this yesterday. There was no bubbles whatsoever. Just want to make sure that nothing happened overnight. But I think we're good. I think our tests went well. Don't see any issues with it. All right, so that was my little test, my little way of doing that. Actually, this has been on here for probably a few months now. At least the Zoomlock Push one. I had the demo one done late last year, and then this one I had done not too long after that. So this is my little test. No leaks whatsoever. Again, this is not on an actual system, but I've actually used them on the system before. So there is going to be a video coming up on press fitting on a walk-in that I did. So we actually put it in the freezer. So part 2 to this will be either in a day or two, and you can watch that video and see how we did that in the field. But for this video, the purpose of this one, I just wanted to do a pressure test on all of these. That way you could see if we put them in line with each other, is there one that's going to fail? Now granted, 230 to 40 PSI is not the highest you're going to see. These are rated over 700, so they're fine. And then when they test them, they're in the thousands. So should not burst on you, should not have any issues with fittings like this. So this is not at all whatsoever going to replace brazing. This is just another tool at your disposal that you can carry with you for certain situations. I work in hospitals. It's something I have to deal with. And they do not like when you have to take torches in their buildings. So yeah, I mean, you can take proper procedures. You can have somebody on fire watch with a fire extinguisher. You can get your permits and all that stuff if you need to do that. Yeah, you can do all that and be okay brazing, but there's still a risk. It's still a danger. Hospital to me is a sensitive area when you're dealing with ashes, soot, potentially burning up something, you know, the smells, like a whole bunch of different stuff that comes with brazing. Now, if you run a business like I do, you're the one that's responsible for all of your guys. So if your guy screws up, burns something, causes a fire, causes a smell, causes ashes flying around with their torches, particularly I work in kitchens a lot, so we have to be aware of the area that they're making the food or prepping food. I've had to learn, or I learned really quickly, when I'm doing my torches, you know, open up or crack open the oxygen a little bit before you spark it. That way you don't get any soot and ashes in the food, because that's another thing you have to think about, where that stuff lands. So there's all that. There's, you know, fire, you know, the sprinkler system and all that kind of stuff that you can set off, because there was units where I have condensers on top of the reach-in coolers and stuff. So I'm working like right under the ceiling. That happens a lot with me in the hospitals. So I'm usually near the sprinkler system and all that kind of stuff. So that's all stuff you have to worry about. And if you want to go with a press tool, you don't have to worry about any of that. So they've been around for years. People have used them. There's a whole bunch of guys that swear by them. And I'm getting into it now because of those kind of issues, right? And like I said, if you run a business, if one of your guys causes any of those issues, it falls on you. So do you really want to put that kind of stress on yourself when you could just go and invest in a press tool, fittings of your choice, and not have to worry about it? Now, the whole thing about them leaking or them failing, I mean, it's copper. For the most part, the fitting is going to be fine. It's all in the prep. Now, if you are doing brazing the right way, it's the same across the board. The only difference is that you are making sure that you mark how far in your line set is going into the coupling itself. That's really about it as far as extra work. And as far as like actually making the joint, it's a few seconds versus, you know, trying to wrap the brazing when you put your solder on there and you're trying to wrap it around, making sure you don't have a leak. Plus, you don't have to do a nitrogen purge when you're pressing. So there's advantages, but prep is the key. When you are prepping a pipe for press, you're doing the same thing as brazing. You're cleaning the pipe, you're deburring it, and you're making sure that the pipe is clean and it's not gonna rip the O-ring that are in these fittings. That's all you're doing. Like I said, the only thing after that is you're gonna make sure that you have enough depth to go past the O-ring on the Zoomlock Max, and then basically the same thing on the RLS. So all you have to make sure is that you're passing these O-rings, and on the Zoomlock Max, you're pressing on either side of the O-ring. So that's why you have to make sure you pass it enough so that you have enough on both ends to crimp. That's a shorter fitting, so that's going to be the advantage to Zoomlock Max. It is more of a plumber type press where it's a hex press, and it's hard copper going on soft copper for the most part. If you guys do hard copper, that works as well. The the RLS is a much longer pipe because they are doing a double press before the O-ring. So when your line set goes in, you got the double press there, double circular press, and then you have your O-ring. So technically, if you want to look at it, the refrigerant flowing through is basically hitting the O-rings first, and then the ends are sealed off by these double crimps. On the Zoomlock Max, they like to do it on either side. It's still a double press, and it's a hex press, so there's 6 points that it presses on. It still makes a good seal, especially if you're doing a soft copper. It's going to do a good job of sealing that copper to copper. It's just when the refrigerant's flowing, it's going to hit one of the crimps first, then the O-ring, and then the last crimp. So either way, you have an O-ring and 2 crimps on both fittings. The Zoomlock is just, you push it in. There is a gasket. There's, I think, a double O-ring system on this one. And that works as well. You just got to make sure that you prep it. It's all about prepping them and preference. So there's good things and bad things about both. Zoomlock Max is hard copper. RLS is soft copper. Zoomlock Max is shorter. It presses on the O-ring directly on either side. It is a hex 6-point press though. It's not going to be a perfect circle. This one is a double press on the outside of the O-ring. And that one is soft copper, so that it tries to blend the copper from the line set to the coupling as much as possible. It's just a preference on you guys. So I don't have my grinder tool on me, but in the next video, what I'm gonna do is I wanna cut this open so as neatly as possible. I'm gonna cut it down the middle, including this Zoomlock Push fitting, so that we can look inside. So if I cut it in half and just kind of split it, we'll see how the crimps look through the line set and the coupling, you know, the joint there. Take a look at the O-rings, take a look at both fittings here, and then we'll see what's exactly inside this Zoomlock Push fitting. So I think that'll be cool, but I'm not gonna get the tool back in time for this video. I wanna post this one already. And then, like I said, in the next video, I'm gonna attach that to the end of that video and we'll take a look at it. So like I said, basically it has its purpose. I know it's an investment, guys. They're expensive, I'm not gonna lie, but once you invest in it, in the tool, right, there's not really much you have to keep putting into it for yourself. You buy the tool and you're good. You can use the tool that they package with it. You can use Milwaukee and other different brands, but that tool is good for a while. Now, when you do oxygen and acetylene, you have to keep refilling those. That's another thing you have to think about and it's happened to me plenty of times to where now I have backup tanks, and I'm sure a lot of you guys probably do that as well. But if you're brazing, you got to remember to refill the tanks. If you don't refill the tanks and it's the weekend, or you're out a couple hours away from any supply house, after hours, anything like that, you're screwed. You can't braze. So that's another thing to think about. This is just a tool with a rechargeable battery. More than likely, you'll have more than one battery. One should always be charged. The battery life is really good on these things because you're basically using it only for a few seconds at a time. I have not charged the one that I got since I got it, and I've used it a few times. I made this crimp, I've made a few already in the field. It's never gonna run out unless you're doing this daily. So that's another thing to think about, all right? You got refillable tanks that you have to remember to refill, whereas this, you don't have to deal with that. Of course, the price is also to think about, like how often are you refilling those tanks? That's like 20 bucks or whatever every time you refill. You're spending hundreds of dollars refilling your tanks. Yes, up front the tool costs more, the press tool, but you're spending a whole bunch of money too on the refilling the tanks and all that. Plus the cost of whatever your torch kit costs. There's costs everywhere. It's an investment. The couplings themselves, you're gonna be like, well, they're $20 each, $10 to $20 each, right? I personally like to bend, so I will be making my own bends to reduce couplings. No matter if I'm brazing or pressing, that is one less leak point to worry about. So I am bending as much as I can. I've always been that way. And then, like, I've always hated couplings even if I'm brazing. But you reduce the amount of joints that you have so that when you do make your connections, you have very little as possible, very few as possible. So if you're only using a few of these, a handful of these on a split system, right? You have maybe 2 inside and 2 outside. Like, how many more joints are you gonna need? Maybe just a couple more, depending on how you run the line set. 4 to 6 couplings at like $100 or so is not that expensive. You bill everything you use, it gets passed on to the customer. I don't think they're gonna mind an extra couple $100 on the bill when they're comparing quotes. So just to think about that, because that's another main topic is like, oh, the cost of this and that. But you know, think about it. And like I said, it's not dumbing down anything. It's not people can't braze or they don't want to learn how to braze. Like, it's just an alternative way. And you cannot, or if your issue is about leaking, they've been working. I'm going to use them. I will check in with you guys as I leak test them. I have a Zoomlock Push fitting that's going on a year already installed, and I have not been called back to it. We do maintenance there. It's running fine, no leaks whatsoever. And if you want to get into leak talk, how many brazing joints are not 100% leak proof? If they're done right, yes. If a press is done right, it's also leak proof. How many times have I gone to a unit that has been brazed together by somebody and it wasn't done well, and you have a missing, like the smallest little spot can leak. If you do your capillary action and you're moving, you know, the solder around, wrapping it around, it's happened to me also before where a little dot will not close, or you think you got it and then you have a little pinhole leak. It's happened to me, and I'll admit it too. When I started, I was not the best brazer. I loved it, but I wasn't the best. I had plenty of issues where I brazed and it leaked. It happens. If it didn't happen to you, you're one of the super techs out there. But yeah, like I've seen it out in the field, and don't tell me you have not seen it either, or you haven't seen pictures where somebody doesn't know how to braze and they have all this solder wrapped around it and it still didn't wrap and seal the joint. It happens. Leaks happen on both sides. Brazing is not 100% leak proof. It can happen on both. It's all about prepping, and if you can do the skill correctly. There's a way to do press, there's a way to do brazing. If you don't do either one right, they will leak. So I think that's it, guys. I just wanted to show you the two main brands, right? So like I said, the next video is going to show us using one in the field. And I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you have any questions in the comments, please leave them in the comments down below. I would love to hear your opinions. I know there's going to be a lot of issues with press, but it's becoming more and more popular, especially if you're on Instagram. these guys are knocking it out of the park. You know, they're installing, people that are installers doing split systems on a daily are just going in, setting them in, press it in, move on to the next. If you guys do, I mean, I wouldn't use it on huge systems personally, and I wouldn't use it on really small systems. That's what I'm gonna be using these for, is like reach-ins. But yeah, light commercial work, I would definitely use it. Residential work, I would definitely use it. And if you have a lot of joints to make, a lot of line sets to connect, either on one job site or in the attic, or you do installs all day, every day, this saves you a lot of time, and I think those are the guys that appreciate it the most. And if you're in the attic, go ahead and press for a few seconds and get out. That'll save you a lot mentally and physically, because nobody wants to be in the attic all day, especially with a torch and just making it hotter. So yeah, I'm gonna end it here. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Remember to like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff, and I'll see you guys.